Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a seriously dramatic, high-stakes corporate clash between two tech billionaires. I mean, we're talking a classic David and Goliath story, but instead of slingshots, it's playing out in boardrooms, stock markets, and flashing media headlines. We're going to look at how a luxury tech empire, built from the ground up by a guy named Ethan Walker, suddenly found itself squarely in the crosshairs of a ruthless, massive, established competitor. So let's break down the exact strategies used on both sides and see what happens when a business model built entirely on trust goes head-to-head with an empire built on raw, unadulterated power.
Just listen to this declaration from Victor Kane. Now, Victor is a powerful billionaire who owned a competing global tech empire, and he wasn't just a competitor, he was an antagonist. He viewed business purely through the lens of dominance. By going out and publicly stating that Ethan was, quote, just lucky, and that real empires are built on control, Victor wasn't just dismissing Ethan's success, he was literally declaring war. Apparently the only thing more fragile than Victor's ego was his tolerance for anyone else succeeding. He didn't see Ethan's rise as just a market reality to adapt to. He saw it as a personal insult to his own philosophy of aggressive control.
Okay, let's dive into this, because understanding these two leaders is absolutely crucial to understanding the conflict, especially if you've ever had to deal with an overly aggressive competitor in your own career. First up, we have Ethan Walker. He's a self-made multimillionaire, company valued in the billions. He's got global users, massive international expansion, and these really lucrative luxury branding partnerships. His entire brand is built on value and trust. But then, standing right against him is Victor Kane, representing the old guard. His company is much older, he relies heavily on strong political connections, and his reputation, well, it's built on incredibly aggressive business tactics. So we're looking at two completely incompatible ways of viewing the business world. And Victor? Well, he didn't waste any time putting that aggressive philosophy into action. His multi-front attack escalated with terrifying speed. Look at this. Week 1, he launches these relentless negative media campaigns. By week 2, he's already escalating to spreading fake news about Ethan's financial instability, literally, deliberately manipulating investor fear. But week 3, man, that is where it gets truly chaotic. Victor actually manages to trigger an internal betrayal. A senior employee right inside Ethan's own ranks leaks internal strategies, the product roadmap, even client data, which Victor then misuses publicly. Like Ethan himself noted, not all wars are outside the company. The sheer speed and ruthlessness of this assault was designed to do one thing: create total, absolute panic. So, with public confusion skyrocketing, investor trust dropping, and his own employees deeply worried, you'd expect a frantic, defensive reaction, right? Instead, Ethan simply comes out and says, "Noise is not truth." That's it. Right in the middle of all this media manipulation and corporate sabotage, Ethan maintained this incredibly calm, focused demeanor. He recognized that engaging in a public shouting match with Victor, that would only validate the attacks. He understood that responding to panic with panic is exactly how empires actually crumble. But look, staying calm didn't mean the damage wasn't real. That glaring 30% right there, that represents the sudden, brutal crash in Ethan's stock value due to the immense pressure of Victor's campaign. I mean, major investors were actively pulling their funds, competitors were swooping in trying to poach his top talent, the media was practically writing his company's obituary, running these flashing headlines asking if Ethan's empire was falling apart. So yeah, while Ethan's mindset was incredibly stoic, the financial reality, that sudden 30% drop, was a literal 5-alarm fire. So with his empire seemingly collapsing around him, major investors fleeing, and his own data weaponized against him, the crucial question is, how did Ethan respond? How do you even fight back against an enemy who controls the narrative, has deep political ties, and is clearly willing to play dirty? Seriously, take a second and think about what you would do in your own professional life if everything you'd built was losing a third of its value in mere weeks. Well, instead of reacting emotionally to all that noise, Ethan went completely inward. He executed what we're going to call a silent strategy. As his closest advisor is basically panicking, saying they're under attack from all sides, Ethan just replies, "Then we build stronger from inside." He completely ignored Victor's provocations. Instead, he focused all his company's remaining energy on 3 core pillars: massive product improvement, refining the customer experience, and ensuring rock-solid system stability. He just let his rival do the talking while he put his head down and did the building. And this brilliantly illustrates the power of that silent focus. It was an absolute masterclass in product-led growth. See, while Victor was out there wasting millions on smear campaigns, Ethan's team was secretly building a next-generation platform upgrade. We're talking a faster, smarter, completely AI-driven system. But the true genius was in the distribution. Ethan released it as a completely free upgrade for all existing users. The result? No way around it, it was massive. Instant adoption. Users absolutely loved it. Downloads surged, revenue miraculously recovered, and public trust bounced back almost overnight. Ethan didn't try to argue his way out of the crisis, he innovated his way out. Now, the definitive turning point of this whole war came down to one massive global client contract. Seeing Ethan's recovery, Victor obviously becomes furious, right? So he invests billions just to copy Ethan's new features and aggressively undercuts his pricing. But when it actually came time to sign on the dotted line, the client didn't choose Victor's cheap, aggressive alternative. They chose Ethan. Why? Because Ethan focused on value and trust. He provided a vastly better user experience and a totally transparent system. It proved definitively that when the stakes are really high, major clients are going to value a trusted, transparent partner way more than some aggressive copycat vendor offering desperate price cuts. Fast forward a few years. At a global business summit, these two billionaires finally meet face-to-face. You can imagine, the tension was just palpable. Victor, who is still somehow unable to comprehend why his strategy failed, asks, "You think he won because of kindness?" And Ethan's response? It perfectly encapsulated their entire war. He said, "No, I won because I understood people." Ethan recognized that business isn't just about ruthless mechanics and control. It's about user psychology, it's about trust, and delivering genuine value. That one fundamental understanding is exactly what separated his luxury empire from Victor's political machine. Ultimately, the market separated the substance from the noise. Once investors realized Victor's tactics lacked any genuine value, his empire really began to crumble. I mean, he lost major contracts, his investors fled, and his once massive company shrank significantly. Ethan, on the other hand, rode the wave of his new AI platform to absolutely unprecedented heights. He expanded globally, cemented his position as the undisputed industry leader, and literally pushed his company into trillion-level valuation potential. It was a total, absolute victory for the strategy of internal building over external destruction. And in the end, even Victor Kane had to admit his error. Reflecting on his own downfall, he stated, "I built power, but you built trust." And Ethan's response to this was pretty profound. Trust is the only thing money cannot buy. Victor had billions of dollars, he had the political connections and the willingness to do whatever it took to win. But all of that raw power was completely useless against a competitor whose foundation was built on the unshakable loyalty and trust of its users. So, what does this all mean for us? What should you take away from this explainer today? Well, the core lessons here are absolutely essential for anyone navigating a high-pressure environment. First, real success relies heavily on long-term trust. It's always going to beat out short-term aggressive tactics. Second, while competition is totally normal, trying to destroy your rival is just a massive waste of resources that should be spent on your own product. And finally, a calm, measured strategy, focusing on what you can actually control from the inside, will always win out over a frantic emotional reaction to outside noise. Value always, always beats aggression. We're going to leave you with this final, lingering thought to reflect on today. Empires don't fall because of enemies. They fall when they forget their purpose. Ethan Walker survived a billionaire's relentless attacks, not by destroying his enemy, but by remembering his purpose, to build something of genuine value that simply could not be replaced. So, the next time you're facing overwhelming external pressure, ask yourself, are you wasting your energy fighting the noise, or are you building an empire that speaks for itself? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep building.